Appreciating St. Louis, from walking tours to outdoor murals. All that's next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Nini Harris is a well-known author and historian, and she's going to join us later in the program to preview some outdoor walking tours that I think you'll find interesting in some great St. Louis neighborhoods. But we're going to begin with another outdoor activity. This one's a little bit different. Please welcome Gina Grafos with the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, and we're talking about the walls off Washington. Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And, this is a relatively new addition
Absolutely.
to our cityscape. I think you opened last October, and shortly after that, the weather and stuff. So this being spring and everything, I imagine there's going to be a lot more interest in this project.
Yes, we are ready to welcome the public. The best thing about public art is it's available all year round, but we're really excited to welcome guests through the spring and summer months.
And so it's a public art project. It's called The Walls Off Washington because it's all kind of situated around Washington Street. What's the geographic location we're talking about?
So Grand Center in Midtown is in mid-St. Louis, thinking about how we are connected from Leonard Avenue to Samuel Shepherd to Josephine Baker Boulevard and down Washington Avenue. So we're kind of situated behind the Symphony and the Fox, and also thinking about towards the rest of Midtown.
Are there spaces in between? And I want to say we have local artists who are known internationally.
Yes.
Right? And so are they all back to back? Are there spaces or blocks between certain areas? Or how does it all come together?
The beauty of the Walls Off Washington is that it's very dense, and so it's very walkable or rollable, depending on your ability. And so we're thinking about how to really bring the inside out and think about accessibility for seeing one piece after another and ways to be inspired without setting foot inside of a space.
Okay. We have a drone video.
Yeah.
And I want to start with that because I'll kind of give people an overall kind of big image of what's happening. And then we can talk a little bit individually about the artists and that sort of thing. So let's take a look at this drone video.
Sure.
And who did the drone video, by the way?
Bobby Best is our remarkable videographer. He's been highlighting all of our gallery works for a year now, and just really knows how to engage with artists.
What did we do before drone videos?
I have no idea. It's like this really impeccable vantage point of engaging in a way that only the birds knew before us.
And as you can see by what we're looking at, it's all kinds of styles, all kinds of, I guess, subject matters.
Absolutely. We have worked with artists that are steeped in graffiti and mural making, and also some artists who have never lifted a mural before. Also collaborative efforts, some sculptural pieces. So yeah, that's the Walls Off Washington.
So am I right, is the majority of it on the sides of buildings? Is that
Yes,
most of it?
yes. So we have the main thoroughfare of Leonard Avenue, and then the alleyway all the way down to Josephine Baker Boulevard. And then it stops right at the big top tent.
And how do people usually view it? Do they see everything, or do you see people just stopping certain places, or do they actually go on a guided tour kind of thing?
Both. We have, every day I see a new photo shoot in front of a mural that we've placed on the wall. And so it's been kind of a joy to see those moments of strangers engaging, but also we offer the entrance officially at 3333 Washington, which is through Sophie's Artist Lounge. And then we have more of a kind of a guided catalog so that people can really get some context and also not miss one of the 20.
Well, let's take a closer look at some of the work,
Yeah.
and you can tell me maybe who the artist is and
For sure.
whatever else you'd like to share with us.
So Carlos Rolon hails from Chicago. This is a gorgeous tapestry that he and his team painted almost by number.
You said tapestry.
Yes, so I call it a tapestry of paint because
Okay.
it very much reminds me of the tile work. It's an homage to the matriarchs of his family in their salons in Puerto Rico, and thinking about kind of bringing that that nostalgia and that memory from what was the floor and tile works up into a larger-than-life mural.
Let's look at the next one.
So Kababi is one of our local mural stars, artist stars.
He was a guest on my show like years ago because he did like a children's book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Kababi, I don't know of one school in the St. Louis region that doesn't have some sort of Kababi mural or imprint upon it. So just thinking about this this mural change going to come, really thinking about the neighborhood. This is north facing to our neighbors towards the north on the north side of Del Mar. And so thinking through to his interpretation of past and present and how he's interpreting different symbols, different words throughout.
And the scale of these things, I'm sure they differ, but that could be 20 or 30 feet high, right?
It is. And he crushed it in August, 100-degree weather in St. Louis. So, and also, this is one that was all done by hand. There was no projection. He just was able to acknowledge what needed to be there and spatially did this all through a can, and still thinking about that stairwell is something that I walk by every day and am inspired by.
How long have you been with the Kranzberg Foundation?
Started as a curator of the Darkroom Gallery in 17, and then became more full-time in 18.
Well, please tell Nancy I said hello.
Absolutely.
And I don't know Nancy's daughter, but she had a lot to do with this too, right?
Yes. Marianne Serenko is the visionary behind the Walls Off Washington, and we've been working together to co-curate and to align artists from near and far to land within this this incredible experience.
And how many murals are there?
We have 20 thus far, with another dozen in the books for spring and summer.
Wow, let's look at a couple more.
Yeah.
These are the Walls on Washington, which you can go see anytime
Anytime.
because they're outside.
Yes. So Kenny Scharf is a legend, very, very connected to the beginnings of when graffiti was finally recognized as a high art form within Basquiat and the Warhol days and the Keith Haring. This is Kranzbergville that he came through. All we had was the prime colors, and he came through in 72 hours. He painted this by himself. We didn't really know what was going to land, but this really changed the neighborhood. It's fun, it's lighthearted, it's...
Looks like a street I'd like to walk down.
Absolutely, and it's joyous, and we need more of that within these buildings that have been sitting empty for quite a long time. This is a high-low that also honors Shirley Bradley LaFleur. With this poem is in honor of Shirley Bradley LaFleur, the poet laureate from St. Louis as well.
Was it a challenge ever to get permission to use? You didn't buy all the buildings, did you?
They are part of the foundation.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we have all the theater companies and all of the venues that are part of that block footprint. But moving forward, we are partnering up with other institutions and entities that are giving us permission because they trust us now. That we have more to come.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but
Yeah.
let's try to look at a couple more. The Walls on Washington.
Samaya Saduth is another local remarkable artist. You might recognize her work from the Terminal 2 at the airport. This is kind of the backdrop of every visitor's experience with the peace sign and the local flora, and just really is uplifting for all of our guests. and is kind of situated in a place where we have Wendy White to the right and Jose Luis Vargas on the left.
And it's neat to not just standalone murals, they kind of play off the other ones that are in the vicinity.
Absolutely. So the heart on the right then is reflected from the red base coat of Jose Luis Vargas on the left. And this is where we began. This is Remix Uno from Mexico City. This is like the baby of the bunch, and this is where we started with a more collaborative effort with Paul Art Space Residency and Grand Center Arts Academy. Okay. So they all helped on that wall.
April 22nd is the date to remember.
Yes. So we are partnering with the Walls Off Washington presents with Music at the Intersection. Elemental is a party that is going to take place from the afternoon into the evening, celebrating the 50th birthday party of hip hop. And so thinking of the walls as the backdrop of that, we're just gonna throw a big party with food trucks and events and skate demonstrations and all sorts of different activities, family friendly. It's the best day to come through with your family.
I think we could look at one more really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another collaborative effort with UMSL. UMSL offered their first mural class this last summer, and so this was an effort to teach the art form of mural process. And so we had 16 students and Professor Phil Robinson all coming together to think through symbolism and how this was all going to come together in honor of the three historic women of St. Louis that the class decided upon.
So it's the walls on Washington, off Washington, excuse me.
Yeah.
I bet I'm not the only one that gets that
no,
backwards.
it's as long as you got the walls, you're doing great.
And so any 24 hours a day, you could drive by and see this stuff. Do you have any recommendations, though, for people as far as coming out?
I encourage everyone to come through Wednesday through Saturday, 3333 Washington from 1 p.m. Until sunset to engage and take a walk and absorb the larger-than-life artworks that are really there to inspire and uplift.
I think we can put that information up on the screen. It's the Walls Off Washington, and you can go to the Kranzberg Arts Foundation.org to find out more. And as you say, this is an ongoing project that's going to expand.
Yes, we have a lot of painting to do, and we are ready for it, both locally and international stars. So grateful that we have so many things to look forward to.
Well, Gina from the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure, my honor.
It's a wonderful addition to our cityscape.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.
All right, and we're going to be back with historian Nini Harris right after this.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one. From the arts, architecture, and culture. An all-new development, including the Cortex Community Center. And you're never too far from great music and entertainment.
So come and experience St. Louis.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. Our next guest is Nini Harris. Nini, welcome to the show.
Oh, it is a pleasure to be here.
To be back.
To be back,
Over the
yes.
years, we've done quite a few together. Nini has written 15 books, 15 on St. Louis history and architecture and related topics like that. How did you get into all this history?
Growing up in South St. Louis, it surrounded us. The buildings told their stories. there were extra grandparents on every block that shared with us the stories of living through the Depression or World War II, or just so many stories that were shared. So that intrigued us all as children.
And now that the weather's beautiful again, it's the perfect time for outdoor tours, which is what you love to do.
Oh, I love to show off our city. It is a joy, and I started doing this in '85, and I do all original research. When I approach a neighborhood, I try not to look at things that were ever published about the neighborhood. I go to all building permits, deeds, and census records so that I start with a clean slate. I want to see what the facts tell me, not maybe other people's interpretations of the facts.
Right.
You can see
lore,
things
I guess that's
clear.
called lore.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. You have a bunch of upcoming tours, and you've been doing this sort of thing for years. Why don't we begin with the first one, which is Soulard. And strikes a special place because my mom's family came from
Right.
Germany and first settled in Soulard. I guess it must have been the early 1800s or something. So, number one, I love Soulard. What do you
Right.
love about it?
What is not to love about it? Its streets speak of the mid-19th century and the waves of immigrants that were coming here. And your family was among the Lutherans who first arrived here in 1839.
Right, founded the
from
Missouri
Saxony.
Synod and all that.
Yes, yes. So we'll be looking at the Mother Church of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod as part of this tour. But we're going to start over by Soulard Market.
And let's look at some images
Yeah.
then. And there you go.
Okay, this beautiful building, this is the south entrance to Soulard Market. And this is a new building for the market's history and for the neighborhood, built in 1929 and designed by our city architect, Albert Osberg, but he modeled it after Brunelleschi's orphanage in Florence. And this beautiful building is on the site of a market that was a private market from the Spanish colonial era. And then it became a public market in 1842, and they built buildings on the site. And those buildings were the site in the secession winter of 1861 of meetings of the people in the neighborhood about who to side with in the Civil War. And your family, I'm sure, was there among the Germans who met on this site and said we must support the Union.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, and you walk down the streets of Soulard and you see the mid-19th century buildings here with stone lintels over the windows. That was used as a way of German building back before the Civil War in South City. So you look at these buildings and you can tell those middle ones predate the Civil War. And they're right at the sidewalk's edge with those wonderful balconies on the second floor. Magnificent streetscapes made of handmade brick.
One more.
And here we have a Creole-inspired house. The first floor is stone, and it has a second floor gallery. This is down by Pontiac Park, and it faces toward the river. The French or Creole-style houses all face the river. The beautiful scenery are faced south to enjoy the solar energy.
We're going to look at another neighborhood, Cherokee, here in just a second. But just explain to people, like, do you do all these tours on a certain specific day and time, and how do people get involved
Well,
in
the
that?
spring ones, I start at 10:30 in the morning, and you just check my website, and I have the upcoming tours listed. And 10:30 is a good time. No one deals with rushing in the morning or whatever, and I offer them all different days of the week, a great variety, so everybody can get in on something.
And we're going to put up your contact information later, but
Yeah.
it's niniharris.com.
Right.
So
Right.
all the details there about specific tours. Let's move to another neighborhood now. This is the Cherokee neighborhood. And for those people that may not know exactly where that is.
Well, it's just south of the Soulard neighborhood. It's actually in Benton Park, the Cherokee Lump Historic District.
Of course, it's Cherokee Street.
Well, it's Cherokee Street, but we start on, it includes the Lump Brewery at the end, which was the first brewery in St. Louis to be a major brewery with
Let's
lager
take a look
beer.
at the images from the Cherokee neighborhood.
Well, and on Cherokee Street at Antique Row, you see the evolution of window shopping. Here's an early commercial building that looks just like a big house of the era, except the doors were double-sized, and then it had big windows. And that's when we start to be able to display items for sale in those windows. This is pre-Civil War through Civil War era. You have this style of storefront. And then as you move on, you see the evolution of the storefront with cast iron. And we'll see that in the next image. This is a delightful cast iron storefront from the 1880s. And the cast iron was stronger, so it enabled the builders to have larger windows. And also at the same time, you have plate glass. So you have these big windows, and you see how it's evolved. Now a commercial building has a distinctive look. Our storefronts, our cast iron storefronts, were made in St. Louis and sold all along the railroad lines. So you see them in Texas and Colorado. We have another one, I think, that we can look at that, this is Saks Quest. Fascinating business. And this particular cast iron storefront was made by Globe Iron in the Soulard neighborhood.
Nini, do you find that most of the people that come on your tours, are they local people? Are they from out of town or what?
Well, I have a lot of out-of-towners, but I concentrate on locals because we have so many great people who grew up in the suburbs and never have really ventured into the city and learned about our own heritage right here. And then the other thing is we have a lot of people in the city who don't realize what a treasure we have. Mm-hmm. This place, the whole city is a work of art, and we need to celebrate it. So that's what the tours are, celebrations.
So you've got a Soulard tour coming up, a Cherokee tour, and let's look at this one, St. Louis Hills, because all of a sudden we kind of jump into mid-century modern.
That's right, and people don't realize that in the city we have over 100 years of great architecture. And St. Louis, we're going specifically to St. Louis Hills Estates, which is the south side of Francis Park. The other sides of Francis Park are St. Louis Hills with a mix of Art Deco and German Revival styles. Now we're going to leap into the ranch house.
I can relate to that.
Well, and they're low with low-pitched roofs and big overhangs on the roofs. But even when we go to this style, it's St. Louis, so we got to build with great brickwork. And this particular one from 1951 has these long, narrow red bricks that have a rough design to them, a rough cut. And then we have the yellow ones. And of course, a picture window, which wasn't to look out from, but it was a place where everybody could look in and see that after living through the Depression and World War II, we had new furniture now. And it was a way to show off, hey, we've survived. They're wonderful.
Let's look at the next of it.
The next one, also built in 1951, ranch house again, long and rambling, but look at the brickwork. Mm-hmm. The bricks, every couple courses, the bricks project from the walls. St. Louisans just could not control themselves with brick.
I'm from St. Louis and everything, Nini, but I grew up, my dad worked for a big company, so we moved around a lot. What a lot of people might not realize, I've lived in neighborhoods with houses like this, but there were no bricks. It's amazing. There are neighborhoods in other parts of the country where there is not one brick house.
I know, and we interpreted every style of architecture with brick. If it could be built, it was built with brick in St. Louis and given a special flavor, a special color, a special texture. Now, this is extraordinary what we have here.
Let's take another look at another home in St. Louis Hills.
This is one of the first homes in St. Louis Hills because that side of the park was platted for development at the end of World War II. And so this one's built in 1948. And who buys it but Joe and Audrey Garagiola?
Well, I've heard of them.
You've heard of them. And this becomes the subdivision of the Cardinal Legends. And they're so beautiful. They epitomize their generation. And that Red Shadings, Stan Musial, and Joe Garagiola, all from humble beginnings, end up in big sprawling houses in St. Louis Hills. They go to church together, their kids go to school together, and they're beloved because they never forget how humble their starts were and how lucky they were.
In the time we have left, I've just got a couple of quick questions for you. I just want to point out that you have written 15 books about either St. Louis history or St. Louis architecture. I think your most recent was Oldest St. Louis?
That's right, yeah. Oldest St. Louis, in which I featured the oldest cookie bakery, the oldest prayer, the oldest hardware store.
And the one before that was This Used to Be St. Louis.
Yes, and what things, St. Louis's history is so layered. Things used to be radically different uses or places, and we just don't even realize all the history in every building.
And we should plug Reedy Press.
Reedy Press has been wonderful, and they're bringing out my next book.
Real quick, in the time we have left, you've got other things coming up on May 23rd, a Polish Heritage Tour.
That's
and then
right.
in April, a German Heritage Tour?
A German Heritage Tour. Both of those are bus tours with Directions St. Louis. And we feature St. Louis sites for St. Louisans to come here and be a tourist and find out what a great city we have.
So now that winter's over, I guess people just go to your website and they can see what tour's coming up and they can
That's
register
right.
that way, right?
That is right.
That's niniharris.com. And do you have any books coming out in the future?
In this summer, I have a book coming out, Black St. Louis, A History of African Americans in St. Louis from our founding to current day. I've done this with Calvin Riley, who is the founder and operator of the George B. Vashon Museum of African American History on St. Louis Avenue.
Did you learn anything?
Oh, I was a lot of time digging through the records, and boy, did I find deeds and all sorts of stuff that
Well,
tell
Nini
history.
Harris, I want people to go to your website because no matter what time of year or anything, you can find something that Nini's doing, whether it's a tour or a book about history, whatever it is. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And thanks for loving history.
Thank you for sharing our beautiful city.
Good to see you, Nini. I'm Steve Potter. Thanks for watching City Corner, and I hope you'll join us next time. Bye.